For the past 20 years, Full Disclosure has been shining the light on corruption here in Southern California and across the nation. We probe for the important issues that aren't covered in depth by the mainstream media.
It is not unthinkable that at the moment of crisis, that there might be a public backlash for all the years of irresponsibility.
That backlash can be seen as the public becomes more and more angry about public corruption. Full Disclosure was the only media that pursued the waste, fraud, and abuse that corrupted the Belmont Learning Center construction project. Seeking full disclosure, Leslie interviewed the LAUSD Inspector General and discovered his frustration.
The prosecution never seemed to come through. Are you disappointed in that?
Of course. I spent almost 3 years of my life working on that report and the reports afterwards and working on the task force for the district attorney's office.
Let me back up a minute because the characterization you've made is wrong.
Oh, I'm just reading from this Inspector General's report.
Yeah, well, let me just take 1 second to comment on that report. It's a work of fiction.
Fiction?
It's like going to the bestseller list, buying a book, and assuming what's written is true when it's actually written by a novelist.
And he referred to it as fiction, that your report was total fiction. How do you respond to that?
Well, everyone's entitled to their own opinion, but I'm still working for the district as of today, and he's not.
The LA Unified School District has been plagued by ongoing corruption for years, as pointed out by Karen Sexton, one of Mr. Mullinex's investigators.
When you found out that there were all these ghost workers and ghost schools and the money was being paid double money and it was never restored, what did that make you feel like?
Well, it makes you feel like, when is somebody going to take notice and do something about this? Why is it not a priority? Why is this not important?
The public wants to know why pedophile priests haven't been prosecuted. While the mainstream media seems to have given the Catholic Church a pass, Full Disclosure has been pointing out the Church's disregard for the laws for years.
We have $500 million paid to children who are molested by priests. Why aren't there more priests being prosecuted for these molestations?
When Cardinal Mahoney states that if passed by Congress, he's going to advise his priests to disobey the law, he violates his own office.
My concern is to reach out with pastoral care to the people who are here in our community. The church is not the Border Patrol.
But the Border Patrol is being overwhelmed by the drug cartels, and the effect is being felt statewide.
The whole state is now being taken over by these cartel-run marijuana industrial-sized farm. Al Capone's legacy was that he corrupted Chicago. Marijuana's legacy is that it will corrupt California, and it's doing it now.
Then there are the humorous foibles of our government leaders, like when LA County banned beach balls, footballs, and frisbees on the beach.
Imagine what a great headline it is anywhere in the world, is Los Angeles bans frisbees on the beach.
It may be humorous on the surface, but Full Disclosure goes behind the news by identifying the really serious problem. As one congressperson stated, we won't know what's in the bill until we pass it.
They didn't make any determination of what was broken and how to fix it. The bureaucrats whipped this up and so we'll do it. And they never read it.
And then there is the ludicrous. Listen to this park dedication by California State Senator Kevin De Leon.
Regardless of where your parents come from, regardless of the color of your skin, regardless of your legal status, you deserve access to nature. As Ron Schaefer just stated a little earlier today, quote unquote, nature deficit disorder, which is a very fascinating concept. Nature deficit disorder can be interpreted as a civil rights violation for those children who've been marginalized historically so they can have access to this beautiful park.
Full Disclosure has interviewed the famous and infamous. Here was pornographer Larry Flynt when he ran for California governor.
Why do you think they don't like you?
I've let them know for 30 years that I feel that the church has had its hand on our crotch for over 2,000 years. And the government is just exceedingly moving in that direction, figuring if they can control our pleasure center, they can control us. So I'm totally at odds with organized religion. So I could not expect them to have any support for me at all.
For the time, the sheriff refused full disclosure and interview with jailed attorney Richard Fine.
Here is the final response we got from the sheriff's spokesman.
Hi, Leslie. This is Steve Whitmore. I am unfortunately the bearer of bad news. The sheriff has repeatedly told me that that will not happen, and so your request has been denied.
Not going to happen? Sheriff Baca should have known better than to refuse Leslie Dutton. She sued the sheriff, and it happened.
I said, that's great, let's do it, but you know what, maybe I should talk to the attorneys. I said that, because I'm not very smart. And he said, that has nothing to do with my decision. Let her interview Richard Fine.
Certainly, full disclosure has covered the serious issues as well, especially dealing with terrorism and air travel, something the mainstream media has given very little attention.
When I was showing the photographs of the inside of the cargo hold, I see all this graffiti, gang graffiti. Not only is it gang graffiti, but rival gang graffiti, where they've been crossing each other out inside the cargo hold. I would not only be afraid that these baboons are handling my luggage and fighting with each other in a luggage compartment, but they're going to bring a gun, because there's rivals and they're gang members. They're going to bring guns, and you're just going to liable to have a shooting right there. And then she told me, well, they actually did find a loaded gun on the tarmac. So I said, how did a loaded gun get on the tarmac, in the airport? And then I found out that these people don't pass through the metal detectors like we do as passengers.
And so when the story broke about the charges filed against dozens of LAX airport security personnel, Leslie interviewed U.S. Attorney Deborah Yang.
As it turned out, some of them, might have been out of status and those types of things, and so we charged them with a misdemeanor, or we just, if it didn't turn into anything, we didn't do anything with them, but they were taken out of their jobs because we needed to tighten security at the airport. There were some individuals that we found had prior convictions that had never been disclosed to us, and so, those were certainly people you would not want to have access to the airplanes.
Now, when you said they were out of status, what does that mean?
It turned out that some of them were illegally here in this country, and so therefore shouldn't hold that type of job, and had indicated on the application form that they were, U.S. citizens or legal residents when they in fact had not been.
If they falsified their forms, does that mean then that you would prosecute them, or were there instances where you wouldn't prosecute them for falsifying forms?
We could have prosecuted all of them, but what we did is we took a very close look at the individuals. It was a very compelling circumstance. Many people in the community came to me directly to talk to me about the situation. There were certainly, as I mentioned to you, there were certainly ones who had prior convictions and they were charged with felonies. There are also some people who were out of status illegally here or shouldn't have had that particular position, had falsified the form, but had very compelling family circumstances.
Full disclosure has been relentless in pursuing corruption, and we've seen the results. Stephen Yagman was prosecuted for bankruptcy fraud.
Would you ever compare yourself with somebody, let's say, like a Johnny Cochran or a William Kunstler?
I despise that motherfucker Cochran. I think he's dishonest intellectually and in every other way. And I'm sorry I even spoke his name.
Nativo Lopez was the leader of the Mexican American Political Association and was prosecuted for voter fraud. Sheriff Corona was known as America's Sheriff before he was prosecuted for witness tampering. Dr. Richard Fine was held without bail for 18 months in solitary coercive confinement. Only full disclosure kept his story alive for the entire time. Judge David Yaffe was the judge who illegally ordered Dr. Fine to jail and was the subject of dozens of full disclosure programs, causing his resignation for his unconstitutional actions. Over the years, the Academy of Television Arts and Sciences has twice recognized the work of full disclosure with 2 Emmy nominations and awarding full disclosure with an Emmy in 2001. Presenting the news behind the news, Full Disclosure has offered alternative resources and solutions to the local, state, and even national problems rarely noticed by the mainstream media.
Coming up with the solutions is not that difficult. It's getting people to be willing to take the pain to get there that's difficult.
For the past 20 years, Full Disclosure has dedicated itself to bringing the news behind the news to make sure that people are better informed.
Democracy is fundamentally a local thing. And without access to information which isn't being provided to you by a paid media or by some endorsement or sponsor or corporation, there is no free flow of information. We, the people, control the process, and therefore we need to exercise our liberties in order to maintain our freedom.